All right, I think what we'll do is, so that we can finish by 12 o'clock, I only have 45 minutes, so I'll try to go a little bit faster. And we're going to talk about training. And I think what I did here is I'm going to talk about sort of general training and how you begin your season. So let's go. If you still have questions about the stroke, hold on to those questions. And when I get to the end, we can ask questions about everything. Okay? All right. Okay. As I'm sure you all know, the general theory of training is that improvement comes from doing something over and over again. When you do something over and over again, the body adapts to that. If you do something over and over again and then make it easy, then the body has what we call supercompensation, and that's how you improve your performance. All right? Now, doing this effectively requires what we call periodization and peaking for the competitions. And I got a little chart up there that you can see shows kind of how that works. You see the base level of your sort of performance before you start training. Then moving to the right, the training makes your ability to perform one time slightly decline. When you train for a little while longer, it gets stable in the middle. When you do it for a little bit longer, your ability recovers and gets back to where it normally was. And then finally, when you take the stimulus away, you get supercompensation and you get an improved performance. Now, I'm sure this is what you do every day. This is nothing new to you. So, periodization is the process where you manage the training and its results with a suitable recovery in order to push the body towards peak performance at a certain time. Okay? That's what you're all doing. You're trying to make your children swim fast at the meet that matters. All right? Now, in order to do that well, you're going to hear a lot of terms today. Some of them are what I call semi-scientific. Don't be afraid of the words. It's, scientists, they like to have words to make things sound more important than they actually are. For me, I look at the season as having 3 parts. A preparatory phase, a development phase, and the development phase is like the main phase. That's where you're getting better at doing things. And then finally, a competitive phase. So if we go back to that little picture we had before, the preparatory phase is kind of the white part and in the beginning of the pink part. And then the main phase is, let's say, halfway through the pink part and through the red part. And then the competition phase will be in the yellow part. Okay? Now, these are some just examples. These are some examples of the way some people periodize their training. And you see on my little chart there, this is kind of, I would say, I guess, these ones up in the top are sort of the way the American people periodize their training for, say, the winter season. Now, if you look, when you're under 15, you can take you should take a long time in the preparation phase because they're little and they don't know anything. You have to teach them everything. So you want to spend that time teaching people in the red part. When they get 16 to 18, they sort of know what you're going to tell them anyway. Kids are smart. They figure out what you know as fast as they can. They know what's coming next. So maybe you don't need to spend that much time. And then when they're 18 to 21, they sort of not never take breaks, but they take less breaks. So the preparatory phase, they know what's coming. They're ready for it. Maybe when they were on vacation, they did a little bit. So their preparatory phase doesn't have to be as long. All right? Then the development phase is the yellow part. For me, for the long part of the season, I try to make that fairly long. And then the competitive phase is in blue. For the little ones, you kind of have one meet at the end of the season, maybe two. Now, it's not to say that there's no meets in the yellow, or competitions in the yellow, but it's just that the main ones, the most important competitions, are in the blue section. All right, now, in the bottom, and maybe some of you do this. I know some people who just repeat the same cycle over and over again. 6 weeks. They break that 6 weeks down into certain parts, and they repeat it over and over and over again. And that works for a lot of people. That works for a lot of people because, a lot of mathematical people, because every 6 weeks, they make a test, and they see that their athlete is getting better and better and better. And right now, I'm not making a value judgment. There's lots of ways of doing things. Okay. These are some words where if you start to read the coaching books, they will speak like this. So it's better that you get familiar. And just because you read this in a book doesn't mean you have to either use these words or do exactly the way whoever wrote the particular book is telling you. But if you're going to be better coaches, you need to understand what people are talking about so that you can compare it with what you're doing. So we talk about a macro cycle, and that means an entire season. For me, it's either the winter season, say September to February, March, or April, or the summer season from April to June, July, August, or some other season, whatever season you are. Because depending on where you are in the world, where you live, people have different seasons. Now within those seasons, within a macrocycle, people use what they call mesocycles to measure their progress. Now remember, when I went back to the other guy, back on the other picture, this person in the green, he only does mesocycles all the time, every 6 weeks. And he breaks that down into shorter cycles and knows what he's doing. But mesocycles are usually shorter, 4 to 7 weeks, where you change either the volume or the intensity or what I just call the focus of what you're working on so that your athlete can get better at a particular thing. Maybe that thing is endurance. Maybe that thing is speed. But you're going to work on that. And then finally is the microcycle, which is kind of your weekly plan. I do think it's a good idea to have an idea of what you want to do each week. Now, that doesn't mean that that's never going to change. In fact, it's always going to change. The way I personally write workouts is I write the workout on a piece of paper. I take that paper. I know now everyone does it on the phone. But I worry about you people who do everything on the phone. You know why? Because you don't like to change the numbers. So you say, I'm going to do 10 50s. But then somebody's mom came in and started shouting at you. And then, your car, the pool, you couldn't unlock the pool doors. You ran out of time. And you only did 8 50s. But you wrote 10 50s on your phone, so you just leave it. Nah. That's not the way I roll. I write the paper, and then if I make changes in real time, I change it on the paper, and then when I'm finished, then what actually happened on the paper goes into the logbook for me. Now, I say that because in your weekly plan, you can have a plan, and if someone gets sick, or if someone just gets to Wednesday and you don't think they can complete all the things that you did, that you wanted to do, you change the plan. No big thing. Now, like I showed you on the little colored sheets, you might begin with a general preparation period. And then, I wrote this wrong, you might have a period of, I called it speed endurance. But what it really means is, you could do one of three things. You can have a period of speed, you can have a period of endurance, or what I like is a period of speed endurance, which is how long you can hold a certain speed. You can work on that for a while. Then you'll have a race preparation period, and then you'll have a little taper period. And this is sort of how you construct your season. Okay? Now, here come the numbers. These are just suggestions. But there are some things I think are important to you. I would suggest that whatever you're doing, you schedule at least 2 main sets a week to address the speed component of your training. Now for me, that's like taking your temperature, or like a doctor looking down your throat. If I do 2 speed sets that are fairly regular, then I can judge the effect that the rest of my training is having on the swimmer. In the beginning of the season, 60 to 70% of your main sets, wherever they are, can be on your main stroke. Outside of your main sets, you want to use, and I'm using my designation, which is EN1, which is kind of the lowest form of aerobic swimming. Low aerobic intensity, EN1, training paces and sets in the early season. That should be the main thing that you're doing. When you get to your main phase of training, it should last for about 6 to 8 weeks. It really takes about that long to make a major change in and I will say this, it takes about that long to make a major physical change in an athlete that is post-pubescent. So once the hormones have come in, I'm talking 13, 14, 15, or maybe these days even some 12 and unders. But once they start to experience puberty, it'll take that long to make a physiological change. Also, you don't want to forget recovery. The thing about 6 to 8 weeks is, that's a long time. And when I'm thinking in terms of a whole season, that's kind of a really long time. And what you need are periods of recovery within your training cycles so that you don't push a kid too far down into over fatigue. Now, the way I suggest doing it is, during whatever cycle you're doing, you might concentrate on the thing you're working on for 1.5 or 2 weeks of work, and then 3 to 5 days of recovery. So, if you have a 6-week cycle, that's what you would do. 2 weeks of work, 3 or 5 days of recovery, 2 more weeks of work, 3 days of recovery. Repeat that. And this way, you really limit your possibility of overtraining. Also, the good thing about doing things that way is you start to get a baseline of how your swimmers react to the work you give them. That's the thing. If you're surprised by what happens, that's the dark side of coaching. For me, whenever I'm coaching someone, I always have it in my mind, there's this much a percentage that this is going to happen, there's a lesser percentage that this is going to happen, and there's a small percentage that they're going to crash. And if that happens, I know what to do next. The worst thing is if you schedule some set and you were all expecting to have a really good performance that day and it doesn't happen, and you have no idea why it doesn't happen, that's when I call it, that's coaching blindness, and I hate being like that. Then I'm asking the parents, what did you do? Did you beat your kid today? Did the kid fail a test, or what happened? But from a physical standpoint, you should always be playing the percentages and sort of knowing what you think is going to happen with your kid. Okay, in the general preparation phase, that first phase at the beginning of the year, you want to think about what you want to improve. My suggestion is, you want to do a lot of stroke technique and movement skills on land. You want to develop for the whole year your aerobic capacity. You want to do the starts and turns at the beginning of the year. Let me say that again. You want to do the starts and turns at the beginning of the year. You don't want to spend a whole season not diving off a block. Then you get to 2 weeks before the meet and you're like, oh, we're going to do starts now. Humans don't like that. They like to do what they already know. You want to improve strength and flexibility. And you want to maintain whatever speed, power, and endurance you gained from the last season. Whatever you got from the last season, you want to make sure you haven't lost any of that. right, now here comes some, I apologize for people who don't like the numbers, but here they come. Here's some reminders. When you're swimming in the lowest energy zone, and now I'm sort of talking about seniory swimmers. I'm not talking about 11-year-olds now. When you're swimming in the lower aerobic zone, the EN1 zone, you want to swim 200s at least or higher at above your aerobic capacity, in the aerobic zone, but below the anaerobic threshold. Does everyone know what I mean when I talk about that? Or do I need to explain that more? I'm going to explain it just in case. As you know, when you're swimming or doing anything, aerobic energy means you are taking the oxygen out of the air, it's going through your system, and you're using that to fuel yourself. That's the general reaction. Remember I told you? That's like the gasoline tank you're using. Once you go above the anaerobic threshold, which you may see with a big A and a big T. Once you go above the anaerobic threshold, what's happening then is, that's your lactate steady state. Once you go above that speed, you're now using muscle glycogen. You're using your breakfast to fuel yourself. And anytime you do that, you need to do that with care. You need to know how many times a week you're doing that, for how long, and if your swimmer is fueling themselves enough to maintain what you're giving them. You got that? So, when you're in those lower energy sets, you want to swim at a speed that is aerobic, that is, using fat metabolism and oxygen to make you go, but below your threshold speed. If you're doing that kind of swimming, you want to take 10 to 30 seconds rest for 200s. You want to take 20 to 30 seconds rest for anything that's longer than 200s. And the heart rate that people should have when they're swimming that way is roughly 130 to 150 beats per minute. And that should be 70% of your training. 15% of your training will be anaerobic threshold sets. All right? Now, you'll be going faster. You will start to burn your breakfast. You will start to use muscle glycogen, but you're going to go just below what we call your VO2 max. Now, you want to do maybe 15% of your weekly training at that speed. The sets you write for that should only last 15 to 20 minutes of swimming. And the heart rate that you will create when you're swimming that way should be roughly 160 to 180 beats per minute. Now, I hope none of you are scared by those numbers, because it's not a problem at all. All you do, and you can teach young kids how to do this, is put their two fingers on their throat and count the amount of beats when they come in, for either 6 seconds or 10 seconds. It's a valuable tool. They will learn it as you learn it. So my kids come in, I yell heart rate, and they'll be like 26 for 10. Or they'll say 16 for 6. And I know that 16 beats for 6 seconds times 10 is 160 beats per minute. And I'm like, okay, you're swimming at the right speed for that particular set. Everyone following that? Now, so those anaerobic sets, that's kind of high sprinting. Well, it's fast swimming. It's not maximum swimming, but it's pretty fast swimming. And you want to make sure that you're only doing about 15% of your weekly training at that speed. And then at the bottom, you know, sometimes you have to give it everything, all out. And that's faster than VO2 max. And you only want to swim 5 to 10% of your practices with that. You want to do 50s or less. A lot of rest. 10 to 15 minutes of swimming. Now, these are just recommendations, but you want to take them into consideration, because my thing is, if you do more than 10 to 15 minutes at once, or if you do more than 15 to 20 minutes at once of this, you have the risk of consuming more energy than you have in your body at that particular time. And if that happens, your athletes will start to cannibalize themselves. They'll get what they call ketonic. They'll start eating their own muscles to do what you've set them out to do. And then this will have a deleterious effect, and it will continue to pull them down. All right. Here's some more little science here is what you're trying to do is you're trying to open the capacities that your body has. That's why you do all 3 kinds of training during a week. Because if you do no sprints until the end of the year, your capacity of being able to sprint gets smaller. It's a simple fact of use it or lose it. You don't want to do it too much, but you want to make sure that capacity's there so that you can fill it as the season goes on. You should generally use all your skills and muscles all of the time. So during a week, you want to make sure that you touch everything. There should be no week where you go no butterfly or no breaststroke, unless you never, ever, ever plan on swimming it. And this is the important thing. There should be no real emphasis on max efforts and race speed at the beginning of the season. Now, what I'm saying by that is, I just told you on the last slide about going very fast. But even very fast is not your race speed. If someone's time for 100 free is 1 minute, and the way they do it is 28 seconds on the 28.5 seconds on the first lap, and 31.5 seconds on the second lap, you don't really want to be focused on having to go 28 seconds on the first week of training. You don't need to do that yet. There will come a time from that, and we'll talk about that later. But you don't want to say, oh, welcome back. You had a great summer. You did a minute and 100 freestyle. You took 2 weeks off. Let's see if we can go 102 right now. You don't want to be doing that. Okay? Now, middle distance and sprinters. The beginning of the season training for middle distance and sprinters should include the same mixture as what I put on those first couple slides. And I put some questions and answered them. Should they do the same mixture as I put down before? The answer is yes. It's the same mixture, but the sprinters will obviously do less volume. Now remember just a second ago I talked about building capacity. And building capacity requires not overstressing your glycogen burning in muscles until your capacity is increased. That's why I said you don't want to be going race speed on the first week of training. What you want to do is build up the aerobic capacity of your fast twitch muscles, the muscles that make you sprint. You want to give them every opportunity to grow and develop, and then put the sprinting on top of them. And in the beginning of the season, you certainly don't want to make the rest in between the repeats keep increasing too quickly. You want them to decrease at first. Because by keeping the rest intervals low, you're burning the gasoline tank. You're not going into your glycogen is saved. Your jet fuel gas tank is saving that energy up. And instead you're just using, fat metabolism and oxygen. Beginning of the season workouts, that's pretty much what I just said. You're spinning the body up to have more capacity to add on to it later. You're improving stroke technique in all your training. You're increasing your strength and flexibility in your dry land. And you're just improving the ability, and I don't know about most of you, but a lot of you that are training age group swimmers, you're in that train to train phase of their life, where you're teaching them how to train better. And part of teaching them how to train better is to get them to learn what it means to do a good workout day after day, and get better at actually doing the things you ask them to do. Okay, here's a workout that I did on November 2nd of this year. And this is for fairly senior athletes, but I thought explaining some of it would be helpful. So they started out doing 4 300s, and they do a 50 normal, and they do a 50 where the turns, instead of doing a flip turn, they go under the water, touch the wall with their hands, rotate sideways, and push off, and get back to the surface and continue. We do that so that they can manage the body wave flow rate up to the surface. Okay? And the thing I made them do is, and this is for the people that asked about how can I make the breathing better? On the first 50, they have to breathe on the left side every breath on the first lap, and the right side on the second lap. And that's just so they practice one way they like, one way maybe they like a little bit less, and that way they learn to get their head back. and to exhale and expel the water. Then they did 425s where they do what we call a surface push. And the surface push is on the water, push off right on the top, and immediately swim 4 strokes of fly. No underwater. No underwater kicking. You might be wondering why I would do that. The reason is this. When you're learning how to swim fly, or in the beginning of the season especially, you have an advantage if you can push off on the water. Now, if you push off under the water every time, and of course in a race you're going to have to do that, but by pushing off on the surface and only swimming 4 strokes, you learn how to swim those 4 strokes. And that helps you to learn how to swim with a perfect stroke in the middle of the race. Am I going too fast? Okay. So, for me, pushing off on the surface is sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes it's an advantage as a teaching tool. They learn how to make the axial skeleton go perfectly and hold on to it for 4 strokes. As soon as they finish those 4 strokes, back to freestyle. 1, 2, 3, 4. Finish the lap freestyle. And then they do some more 300s with a little drill. And then 425s, same thing. Push off on the surface, no pull out for breaststroke, but right to the breaststroke. Learn how to move that skeleton the way you want it moved. Go through that 2 rounds. Next set, 200 kicking with fins. Now remember I was talking about the fins there. The reason I want to use the fins is for the underwater part, because I want the whole body. But they get to do a lap kicking on the surface with the fins. But in my mind, I'm looking. They can use them. They can get better at it. But I do not let it get to this point. No. Yeah. I don't need to go through the whole thing. You can sort of see it. Anybody want to ask me any questions about it? There's one thing in there that sometimes, I'm sure you do this, especially in long course, I make them swim, and in the middle of a lap, they do a flip turn in the middle of the pool and keep going. Swim, swim, swim, flip, right in the middle, no wall, keep going. Keeps them awake, keeps them up, teaches them how to move their body around in a circle, that kind of thing. I know you have copies of this, so I don't need to stay on it so long, and I know we're pressed for time. Explanation of that work. The first set, I was working on breathing and balance. And then the second part of that first set was, the recognition of velocity and balance. The second set, I'm thinking about aerobic capacity, and I'm working on the short axis strokes of breast and fly. And the third set, I'm working on a first taste of an anaerobic, a speed burst, and matching that with technique improvement. So that's my reasoning for set 1, set 2, and set 3. Okay? Sorry, I forgot to mention that was a short course workout. This is a long course workout. I'm trying to think if there's anything special I want to mention there. Okay, You see up there 1250s kicking with a stick. That's them holding a pipe and then having a kick holding the pipe, not a kickboard. No flotation. They have to work their core. They don't get to do any of that fin kick and feet thingy, or they'll go right under. Their kick has to be efficient when they have that in front of them. I do use snorkels sometimes. I like them. They make people exhale dynamically. Nothing too special about that. I'm sure you all have written workouts just like it. This is a little bit of dry land. Yeah, I guess that afternoon we didn't even get in the water because it was early in the season. A little bit of running machine. Some dry land work, which was dumbbells, doing this, squats, doing this, and then one of my favorite things is a dumbbell ski, but you got to make sure that they don't pick up the dumbbells too heavy and throw them at you, which is the Winter Olympics are in, just a little dumbbell, not too much weight in each hand. Skiing. I'll tell you what, you do that for 30 seconds, they're screaming. Then after that, a medicine ball routine. And then after that dry land, we got in for a few minutes and we did some turn practice. Yeah. I'm skipping that. So that afternoon practice was a little bit of mixture of dry land and swimming. The work was pretty much EN1 and EN2. The dry land component was kind of an anaerobic preparation. And that kind of pre-activated their muscles for the turn work and the little mini speed work they did at the end. And I'm pretty sure that when they're just doing a little dry land work, they're not going to burn through any glycogen, and I will get pre-activated speed for my last little set. Also, that keeps a little bit of strength retention in there for with the turn work. Here's a third workout to look at. And on this workout, I was going to ask you some questions. Have a look at it there. My questions are, where's the low aerobic work, the EN1 work? And that would be in the first set. The 300 of pulling, the 200, 50 free, 50 breaststroke. That's all EN1 mixed with 100 kicking fast. Also the 2 800s. That's also low aerobic work. The anaerobic work is in the 100 kicking fast, and it's also in the 12 100s. Because in the 12 100s, what I make them do is dive in and go at 25 as fast as they can, and a 75 easy. All right? The 75 easy, they breathe to the opposite side. That means most kids, unless they're really every third breathers, will have a side they like best. On that little set, what I made them do is go very, very fast, which puts a stress on their body. The minute they finish that stress, they have to maintain concentration and breathe to the side they like the least. That's not as easy as it sounds. Because as you know, once they do something hard, it's all back to the breathing. They immediately want to go, but if they have to breathe to the opposite side, they can't completely relax. They have to maintain their concentration, their core, and they need to think about how am I going to breathe to what I call the wrong way, to the weak side, after having stressed myself. Those 2450s down at the end there, first 12, remember in that workout I did 2 days before, they were only going 4 cycles fast. And it was kind of a warm-uppy thing. Sorry. But now, they're doing 12 cycles fast because they're in long course now. So they're pushing right off on the surface, and they're doing 12 cycles as fast as they can. Then the rest of the long course lap easy. 4 of them fly, 4 of them back, 4 of them breast, 4 of them free. So, in listing these things, these are kind of some things you can do to concentrate on the things I've been talking about for the last 2 days, which is managing the exhalation, managing the breathing, teaching how the axial skeleton moves you down the pool, and maintaining all of those things over time. Man, here's a 4th workout. Again, I know you have copies of these. I get bored talking about workouts compared to talking about swimming, but I'll let you ask the questions. Now the heart rate work starts to come in here. And like when I get to those A200s, the odd ones, they're only swimming at 150, 160 heart rate, but the even ones, they're swimming 160 heart rate or higher. Now they're starting to realize the fine differences between 10 beats per minute of your heart. Remember what I said yesterday. Your body doesn't know a time, but your body does know feelings. Then checking the heart rate gives them a hook of what those feelings mean. Now they understand. Ooh, 150 kind of feels like this. 160 feels like this. And 170 definitely feels like that. And I hope you can see how I'm slowly advancing the skills that are going to be required for them to go through the season. Now, if you notice, this second set, this is my high anaerobic work for the week. So this is part of the 15%, where they go 450s diving as fast as they can on 1 minute 15. That is hard. That is taxing. They will definitely be burning glycogen. And right after they finish doing that, I put a snorkel in their mouth and say swim 400. I'm sure you can figure out why from listening to me for 2 days. Because yet again, they will be stressed. They will have been seriously stressed. Then the snorkel goes in their mouth, and what do they have to do with the snorkel? Exhale. Exhale. Exhale. That teaches them how to exhale under a load of stress. And that is how they become better swimmers. So really this practice was kind of like in half. It was long high aerobic in the beginning, and then it was anaerobic at the end, and then ultra speed at the end for only 6 cycles. So they're tired after that. Answer those questions. So, sort of finally there, talking about the beginning of the week, if the general prep is 6 to 8 weeks, 2 weeks of recovery, 2 weeks of work, 1 week of recovery, 2 more weeks of work, 1 week of recovery. Then you surely have an athlete that's ready to progress to the next set schedule. Or, if they're a little bit older, a little bit more proficient, you can do it this way. 1.5 weeks training really hard, half a week recovery, 3 times. You can do it anyway. And at the bottom, 5% sprinting with long rest, is okay for maintaining speed. And when I say 5%, I mean 5% of your weekly training. No more than that. Okay? All right. We're a little bit past 12, but I will open up for questions on anything. Anything you heard about strokes or anything you heard about that beginning of the season. Any questions? In the back there, sir. Channel 2. Is over this way, I think. Yeah, white shirt guy. Yeah.
Merhaba. Akşam antrenmanından önce
It's on too. It's got to be turned on. No, I don't hear anything. 2 or 1? No. Not yet. I can hear that one. Yeah. Okay. Okay, go.
merhaba. Akşam antrenmandan önceki Dryland programında bazı ağırlıklar kullandığınızı gördüm. Onunla alakalı işte goblet squat'ta, dumbbell ski'de, onunla alakalı hangi yaşta başlamamız gerekiyor buna veya hangi yaşta başlamamızı önerirsiniz? Bununla alakalı sormak istiyordum. Teşekkürler.
Okay. Now I'm a little bit nervous because I know I'm in the country of Turkey where weightlifting is king. But I would say first you want to learn basic movements. Then maybe when they're 11, 12, no, not even 11, 12 and 13, when the body starts to change, you might want to use tiny dumbbells or medicine balls or things to hold to support the movements. But I do not think that kids, even in high school, should really be going to what I know you all call Olympic lifts until they are very, very mature. Okay? Next question. About anything. Right here. Oh, I thought he had a question. Sir. Right here. Yeah.
İlk önce Aktardığınız bilgiler için teşekkür ediyorum. Benim sorum şununla ilgili. Kulaç sayısına, kulaç devrine göre antrenmana hiç girmediniz. Bunu önemsiz olduğu için mi aktarmadınız, yoksa farklı bir bakış açınız var mı bu konuyla ilgili? Bunu sormak istiyorum. Kol frekansına göre antrenman.
Oh no, yeah, the frequency is important. And I did speak about, I called it rhythm and tempo. And rhythm and tempo is very important. But the reason you're asking me this is because I didn't give you specific numbers. And I won't do that unless I know a specific swimmer. Frequency is important. You can train with it. But you need to know what you're moving forward. So this is what I want to say to you. There is no fixed number except the fixed number for your athlete. And I suspect when people think stroke frequency, they have in their mind that 1.4 seconds a stroke means something to your swimmer because you read about what some other swimmer's stroke frequency was. And that is a no-no. You need to get your swimmer's stroke frequency, understand what it is, move it up, stabilize it, move it down, move it up again, but it has to be absolutely relevant to them. There are no stroke frequency constants. Do you understand what I'm saying? Do you? Okay. It is important. It's
Hocam,
very important.
Dediklerinizi kısmen anlayabildim. Şundan dolayı belli enerji sistemlerini çocuğa anlatırken kol devri verip antrenman yapıyoruz. Şunu anladım. Antrometrik özelliklere göre kol devri değişiyor dediniz. Ama ben bunu çocuğa aktarırken biraz daha açıklayıcı olursanız sevinirim. Mesela SPR2 antrenmanı yaparken çocuğa kaç kol devri demeliyim? Kolu uzunsa bunu düşürmeli miyim? Kolu kısaysa arttırmalı mıyım? Ağırlık merkezi alttaysa yükseltmeli miyim? Azaltmalı mıyım?
Excellent. Excellent question. Now you're talking. These are the questions you should be asking. And actually, you've answered your own question. Okay? So look at me standing here. You can see from my body that my stroke frequency is going to be relatively low. Okay? Now, if I see someone like maybe Hannah, with her body and the length of her arms, her stroke frequency is going to be higher. But what I do is I watch myself or her swim fast. I record the stroke frequency. Then I decide, do I want to raise it or lower it? Now, if I have to swim 200 meters, then I want to maintain a critical stroke frequency. If I want to get faster for 100, I may want to increase that stroke frequency. And so I understand what you're saying. All right? And there will also be an energy cost to that. And I need to measure what happens to the heart rate. Some people, they go faster by pulling harder and lower their streak frequency. Maybe their heart rate goes up 10 beats. But if they turn their arms over very fast, it may go up 20 beats. If it's going to go up 20 beats and they have to swim for 2 minutes, if it goes up 20 beats and they only have to swim 50, no problem. This is how you make the decisions. How you do not make the decisions is to say, guy from France, he wins the 50. His stroke frequency is 0.97. I must go 0.96. This is not how it works. Because every human body is different. So, stroke frequency, it is important. but it has to be relative to your swimmer, not to anyone else. Okay? Next question. That was a great question. I love good questions. Anybody have any more? Yes, ma'am.
Merhabalar. Benim kısa bir soru olacak. Ben bazen ara sıra kara antrenmanı yüzmeden sonra yapmak zorunda kalıyorum. Açıkçası hafta 2 kere. Ne kadar doğru ve ne kadar yanlış sormak istiyorum. Yüzmeden sonra. Yüzme antrenmanından sonra.
Oh, after swimming.
Teşekkür ederim.
Okay. If that's what you have to do, then that's what you have to do. Of course, I'd like to do the dry land training beforehand. But in most of my swimming, I'm not able to do that because school begins in the morning and when it ends and you have to do the best. So what you must do is you must keep the swimmers interested in the dry land. So don't feel bad because all in the world we all have this problem. Only the professional swimmers who don't go to school or don't do anything, they are the only ones I know that get to do it before swimming every day. So you're doing your best. I've been the same place as you have. Another question. All the way in the back.
Merhabalar, ismim Caner. Şimdi çocuklarda kuvvet antrenmanlarında ağırlık kullanıyor musunuz? Kullanıyorsanız da yıllık planlamadaki yoğunluğunu ne derecede tutuyorsunuz?
Oh man. I'm afraid to answer you because in your question I can already hear that you know all about yearly load and intensity of weightlifting, and I must tell you, for kids, you use the word kids, none of this is relevant. I'm trying to think. Okay, imagine a tree was growing. Can you imagine this? A little sapling tree. Now, what you're thinking is, how much weight can I hang on this branch to make the branch be stronger? You can't do this. You have to wait until the tree has grown enough to support its own weight before you start hanging volumes and loads and intensities on that tree. Do you understand me?
Kullanmamamız gerektiğini söylüyorsunuz ama yeni literatürde çocuklarda ağırlık antrenmanlarının uygun olabileceği söyleniyor. Bu konuda ne düşünüyorsunuz peki?
I think it's rubbish. This is the new literature of weight training people who never compete in an actual sport. Okay? Let me tell you this. Everything with weightlifting people is power times velocity, or what is it? Speed times velocity equals power. And from this, they make deductions about what is good for children. Well, let me tell you this. This is in the world of living on land. Every move I make on the land, gravity is pulling me down this way. But in swimming, this is not what happens. In swimming, I'm laying on water. Gravity is pulling me down here. Buoyancy is lifting me here. And gravity is pulling me down here. All the muscle weight work I do on land will have very little relevance to my ability to hold that position in the water. Can you understand that? And I guarantee you the people that wrote, quote, the new literature will not have thought about that for 1 second. Sorry, I get a little worked up about that. Next question, sir. Okay, we've got one here and then there.
Arkadaş biraz önce çocuklarda ve 11-12 yaşta ağırlık antrenmanlarından bahsetti. Bunu açıkladınız. Ben de şöyle bir soru sorayım peki. Bu yaşlarda yüzülen mesafe maksimum ne kadar olmalı? Ya da bunu ne kadar tutmalıyız? Çünkü bazı antrenörler bunu çok yüksek tutuyor. Ya da biz bazen bu antrenmanları düşük tutabiliyoruz. Bunun bir ortalaması var mıdır? Ben bunu öğrenmek istiyorum. Teşekkürler.
Again, I mean, I hear what you're saying, and there is definitely a part where there is overtraining. And what I tried to do was, I tried to show you, by listing the percentages of what happens, how you can avoid overtraining. But I know this country, like every country, you want a number. You want me to say 50,000, it's too much. 40,000, it's just right. 70,000 is too much. There is no number except the number that is relevant for your swimmer. Now, I know there are many people who train people for too long, but the reason it's too long is usually because there's too much intensity. There's too much high aerobic intensity, and that is what makes the swimmer crash. Not so much the overall volume, but the wrong mixture of the volume. So in this way, I can try to explain it without putting a number so that you go back and say, he said 50,000 is okay, or 60,000 is too much. Do you understand? Okay.
Evet.
And this gentleman, where was the other person? Yes. And then maybe one or two more, and I think I have to let you go to lunch.
Merhabalar, öncelikle hoş geldiniz. Adım Kazım. Serbest stille ilgili bir soru sormak istiyorum size. Biliyoruz ki iki taraftan da nefes almak her halükarda bir avantaj. Şimdi 3 kulaç bir nefes var, 5 kulaç var, 7 kulaç, 9 kulaç. Hedefimiz ne olmalı? Yani 3 mü, 5 mi, 7 mi? Ya da bazı üst düzey sporcular biliyoruz ki hiç nefes almadan 50 metreyi tamamlayıp dünya şampiyon olmuşlardır. Bunun için ne dersiniz? Teşekkür ediyorum.
Oh, okay. We're on the same page, yeah. Some people can hold their breath and become world champions in the 50 freestyle, or maybe in 100 freestyle. And the point is, they are champions because the race is short enough that they don't have to breathe at all. Then it's like lifting weights. They just, yes, I win the gold medal. Good for them. Good for them. But if that's not you, if you're just a regular person and you want to swim for more than 20 seconds, you're going to have to learn to breathe. Okay, now in terms of holding your breath patterns, I like to do 3, 5, 7, or 9 sometimes. But not because they get better at holding their breath, but because they get better at ignoring the brain's signal to breathe. When they're holding their breath, but here's the thing, if they're holding their breath for 5 or 7, maybe not 9, but maybe 3, 5, or 7, I want them to maintain their stroke integrity and to think about that. Not just to be thinking, oh, I'm holding my breath, I'm holding my breath, I'm holding my breath. What good is that? So the idea of breath control is to reduce that signal and to maintain what's going on, and really at the highest stages to exhale in there. You want them to, while that 3, 5, 7, or 9 is going by, that they're expelling their carbon dioxide into the water. And that will make them a better swimmer. Okay? All right. 2 more. Or yes, sir. 1, and then 1 more. And then lunchtime. Okay, you will be next.
Merhabalar, hoş geldiniz. Benim sorum yaş grubu yüzücüleriyle ilgili. Bunlarla ilgili sprint setleri. Her antrenmanda yaş grubu yüzücülerine sprint seti yaptırmak zorunda mıyız? Her antrenmanın içinde olması gerekir mi? Ve sprint seti her antrenmanda çalışmak gerçekten çocuğu hızlandırıyor mu?
No. That's why I think I put up there. You want to do it a couple times a week. If you're going to do it every day, then it has to be very short, like half the pool. You can do 6-second sprints or maybe 8-second sprints. You can do that every day. You can do that all the time because it doesn't last long enough to burn the glycogen. If you make them do 50s sprinting every day, you will stunt the development. Not only will they not get the speed, they will eventually lose the speed because the energy required to do that speed over and over again, they cannot eat enough food to do that every day. Okay? And the last one, yes.
İyi günler, Emre Seven. Yüzme sporu için elbette ki sporcunun yeteneği, hırsı önemli. Ancak önemli olan bir mevzu da onun fiziki yapısı. Ben ve buradaki pek çok arkadaşım 2013-2014 yılında yanılmıyorsam Enka'da yapılan bir seminerde Sayın Dimitri Mançeviç vardı. Kendisi 2 ay önce vefat etti. Bu üzücü bir olay. Bazı noktalara değindi. Özellikle sporcunun fiziki yapısının, kol genişliğinin, bacak boyunun, kendi boyunun, hatta ve hatta anne ve babasının fiziki yapısının ne kadar önemli olduğundan bahsetti. O kadar çok bahsetti ki ben kendimi üstün bir ırk yaratmak isteyen bir Nazi subayı gibi hissettim. Çünkü üzerine çok durdu. Yani sorum şu. Şampiyon olmak için
Russian people. Okay, what's your question?
şampiyon olmak için belli bir vücut ölçüsü şart mıdır? Yoksa ölçüsü çok uygun olmayan sporcular da şampiyon olabilir mi? Mırıldanmayın arkadaşlar. Bu hepimizin problemi.
Yes. This is why I picked the strokes, the videos that I showed. And I will mainly talk about the boy that swam butterfly. He is only, this tall. He's from China. And he's a normal person. And he got an Olympic bronze medal, maybe silver medal, I'm not sure. But 50.7 seconds in 100-meter butterfly. Now, one more Olympics before that, that was nearly first place. The big giants were doing that. So I think many more people can become champions without the perfect body. I agree with you. I agree with you. We are not building the master race. There are certain things that help. And I think what you can do, if you pay close attention to the build of your swimmer, you can say, I think for you, breaststroke is better. I think for you, backstroke is better. I think for you, butterfly is better. And also, by looking at the way they are, you can decide the kind of stroke movements you want to build for them. But, like I said in the first talk, we can only coach who is in front of us. And we love coaching. So we're going to do the best we can for every child we have. Let the Russian people worry about the perfect build. I'm just going to try to make all my swimmers as best I can. So I thank you for asking that question, and I hope you will continue to do the best for your kids. That's all we can do. Okay? All right, I think it's, okay, one more.
Merhabalar, Funda Coşkun. Aslında ekleme yapmak istiyorum. Yaklaşık 3 yıl önce Dimitri'nin o seminerlerin içerisinde, o ekip içerisinde ben de vardım. Aslında bizim ve Dimitri'nin orada söylemek istediği şey, %100 bu çocuğu aldın, ölçtün ve bu çocuk senin için şampiyondur değil. Sadece alternatiflerden bir tanesi. Yani eğer ki yetenek seçimi yapacaksan, bu senin için bir basamak gösterge. Ama buna kitlenip de işte aynen sizin söylediğiniz gibi diğer çocuklarımızı unutmuyoruz. İstediğimiz şey, o çocuk yetenek olabilir. Ama buradaki en önemli görev antrenörünün. Antrenör o çocuğu gözlemleyecek ve o çocuk üzerine eklemeler yaparak ilerletecek. Ama Dimitri demiyordu ki illa da bu çocuğu alın ve siz bu çocuk üzerine bütün emeğinizi bu çocuk üzerine harcayın gibi bir söylediği bir şey yoktu. Lütfen yanlış anlaşılmalara sebebiyet vermesin arkadaşlar. Teşekkür ediyorum.
I know nothing. I'm just saying. You guys can fight that out. Okay, thank you very much. I guess we will come back here in a little bit of time.
Değerli misafirlerimiz, saat 2'de programımıza devam edeceğiz. Saat 2'de programımız devam edecektir. Afiyet olsun herkese.